Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today we have a lot to talk about with the iPhone Fold, the iPhone 18 Pro, iOS 26.5's next release, and much more. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of April 13th, 2026. A new Apple museum is opened in the Netherlands with 50 years of Apple products. It's the largest Apple museum in Europe, according to the museum creator, Ed Bindels. It features not only Apple products, but a recreation of the original garage where Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak worked to create the original Apple computer. If you want to check it out, I'll link in the description below where you can pick up tickets, figure out where it is, and see more about the museum itself. Now, I mentioned before that Mac Mini and Mac Studio configurations seem to be in low supply. However, some are now out of stock on Apple's website. This could be due to maybe upcoming versions launching with the M5 processor, or possibly just due to the global memory shortage. If we scroll down here on the Mac Mini site, you'll see M4 Pro chipset, and then maybe we'll just pick the base core, and then if we scroll down, you'll see different options here, but many of them are sold out for quite some time. So depending on the configuration that you want, you'll find that it's very hard to find specific configurations, and you'll see it says unavailable. And then if we tap here where it says ships, it says July 17th or in 10 to 12 weeks. So they're completely out of stock for many of these configurations, and hopefully we'll get some new versions soon, and it's not due to the memory chipset shortage. So I would love to see an M5 Pro, M5 Max, M5 Ultra, Mac Studio, or something along those lines. Apple has once again taken the top spot for global smartphone shipments, with Apple now in the top spot for the first time within the first quarter. This is according to Counterpoint Research. So based on the information they have, it looks like Apple is back in the top spot as they continue to have great sales for the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. Apple Car Key is being added to Lexus soon based on back-end code found by MacRumors. This is a feature I've been using for quite some time. You can find it within the Apple Wallet, and it's super convenient. Just use your iPhone or even your Apple Watch. Maybe you forgot something in the car, you need to run out and get it. Use your Apple Watch, it unlocks the car, you get in. Once you leave or sort of get a little bit ways away, it then relocks the car. It's super convenient and definitely something more manufacturers should add. If you ever wanted to run macOS but don't have a Mac, it seems you can now run it on a Nintendo Wii. If you're a developer, such as Brian Keller, he was able to port macOS 10 Cheetah to the Wii, and he outlined how he did it. You can see it on this blog post here where it says porting macOS 10 to the Nintendo Wii, and he walks through how he actually did it. So this is something you could try yourself if you wanted to do that. I wouldn't typically recommend it, but it seems that it will run on it thanks to the PowerPC 750CL processor in the Wii, which is similar to Apple's own G3 iBook and iMac CPU years ago. Again, I'll link this in the description below if you want to check it out. Apple's former head of artificial intelligence, John Giandrea, is leaving Apple this week as planned. This is something that started happening a while ago as Apple shifted its plans for Apple Intelligence, and he's now departing this week. Apple also released a new Apple Business platform, giving users an all-in-one place to manage employees, devices, communication, and customers across its platform. This is an all-new update to this, and there's also a new app to go along with it that you can use on the go or on your iPhone to manage this as well. You'll see it's a new icon along with some updates here to manage employees, MDM with different devices, and much more. So this is available now. When it comes to apps this week, Half Brick Studios, who made Jetpack Joyride on the App Store, has released a new multiplayer racing game for free. You can see it here, Jetpack Joyride Racing, and it's available now. It doesn't have the greatest ratings, but it is a free app, so let me know if you've tried it out as well. If you subscribe to YouTube Premium, they're getting a price increase to $15.99 per month, up from $13.99. The student plan is also increasing by $1 to $8.99. If you use Instagram, it's been updated this past week to allow editing of comments up to 15 minutes after you leave a comment. So if you haven't updated the app already, there's an update available, and of course you can change how you comment there as well if you made a mistake. Also this week, Apple Creator Studio got a bunch of different updates with new features and of course bug fixes and more. So if you subscribe to Apple Creator Studio, many of these apps have been updated with Pixelmator Pro, for example, and quite a few different things with new updates to even Final Cut Camera in their icon there. So they added a new lens idea here, so you'll see it. Actually, it's right here. You can see Final Cut Camera within the productivity, photo, and video options here. So Final Cut Camera gets a new little lens icon. Also, Apple has removed the non-Creator Studio version of iWork apps with Pages, Numbers, and Keynote on Mac. You'll have to use the new version, which is still free, but lacks some additional features if you're not subscribed to Creator Studio. So they're making a big push into Creator Studio, and I really wish they would have kept the general iWork apps for everyone without sort of warning them to upgrade on Mac. When it comes to weekly Apple deals, well, of course, there's still discounts on AirPods Pro 3 down to $199 on Amazon from Apple. The MacBook Air M5 is $150 off, and MacBook Pro is up to $200 off depending on the configuration. There's quite a few good deals this week, so again, I'll link those in the description below. When it comes to the next release, well, we already had iOS 26.5 Beta 2. It's out to developers and public beta testers. However, Beta 3 could be as soon as next Monday on the 20th or maybe the 21st. We don't have a specific date. However, given that it's the second to third beta, sometimes they'll push that out a week later, sometimes 2 weeks later. So we don't have that specific date, but if they do push it out maybe on the 20th, we could see the Beta 4 version or RC on the 27th, and then maybe a public release around the 4th, or maybe a week later on the 11th. Again, we don't have specific dates, but many people are looking forward to iOS 27. We'll see that for the first time at WWDC 2026 on June 8th, and we'll see that during the keynote, usually at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So I talked about that in a separate video as well. Then we'll have betas all throughout the summer, usually a public beta in July, and then a public release in September. Of course, that will push out around the iPhone 18 launch. So that's what we can expect as far as that goes. Mark Gurman has said that Apple is in the middle of a 3-year plan to reinvent the look and feel of iPhone. The first step was with the iPhone 17 models, where it looks radically different than before, and next will be the iPhone Fold, and then in 2027, a 20th anniversary iPhone that is radically different compared to what we've seen with maybe the iPhone 10 when it launched. So we could see an all-glass design, as we've talked about before, where it rounds over the corners on each edge, and is something we've just never seen before. So I'm looking most forward to seeing that phone in a year or so, but it looks like we could have a folding phone later this year, as I've talked about before, and I'll talk about in just a moment. And we saw it for the first time as well as far as what we can expect for an overall size and dimension of the iPhone 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max, and iPhone Fold. Sonny Dixon shared pink models of what to expect from the upcoming devices. The 18 Pro models look pretty much as expected, and the Fold has the much-rumored wide display design that seems to work better for video or widescreen content. The dummy units are usually pretty accurate as far as how the devices look, but of course the colors and other fine details will be left until Apple shows them later this year. But that's what we can expect. And with the iPhone 18 Pro, it's less than 6 months away. It seems there are conflicting reports about the size of the dynamic island. Some have actually said that it will stay the same, some have said that it will get smaller, and according to Digital Chat Station on Weibo, Apple themselves are undecided as far as which one to use. The smaller dynamic island would move Face ID under the display, and it seems like a nice change we would like to see in a new phone, but maybe Apple just doesn't have enough supply in order to meet that demand yet, and they're trying to make up their mind. Either way, we'll have to wait until the fall to see what they do, but I wouldn't mind a smaller dynamic island, and of course Face ID under the display if they manage to do that. Also, many people have wanted a red color for the iPhone for quite some time. We got a blue and then of course a cosmic orange this year, so we've got these nice new colors, a little bit different than what Apple's done before, and it seems red could be the next color. According to Digital Chat Station on Weibo, Apple is said to be testing a deep red finish. So this wouldn't be a product red style, but rather a deep red style that would be a little bit different, and I would certainly welcome that. We could also see sort of a brown color and maybe another one, or maybe Apple will just keep silver at this point. The iPhone Fold is what many have been calling Apple's upcoming folding phone for some time now. However, a new rumor suggests the iPhone Fold will get the Ultra name. So it may be called iPhone Ultra. I would like to see it just be iPhone Fold, but let me know what you think of that in the comments below. We also now have a general price range to expect for the iPhone Fold. Mark Gurman says he expects it to cross the $2,000 threshold. It could be as much as $2,799 depending on storage, maybe even more. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what Apple releases it with, but given that it's basically 2 iPhones, $2,000 doesn't seem to be that far out of what we would think, since the folding phones from Samsung and others are right around $2,000 as well. Now, the foldable display in the iPhone Ultra will be exclusively made by Samsung for the next 3 years, according to the elect. This makes sense as they're currently making iPhone displays already, and then of course they make their own folding displays and have for years. The display, though, is said to be crease-free, and one way to achieve that is with smart adhesive, according to TrendForce. The optically clear adhesive helps with bending fatigue of the glass and also stays pliable to help support the display too. This could be something we haven't seen others use before, and as we get closer and closer to the release, hopefully we'll finally have a crease-free display. So that's something Apple is not willing to compromise on, it seems, where Samsung, of course, it definitely has a big crease. It's not as noticeable when the display is on, straight on, but it's something you certainly notice. So hopefully Apple figures this out and we have a truly crease-free display, as some have gotten close, but not truly crease-free. Also, a recent report from Mark Gurman has contradicted reports from others that the iPhone Ultra will launch later in 2026. Instead, Mark says the iPhone Ultra will be available around the same time or shortly after the iPhone 18 Pro models. However, Nikkei Asia has said that Apple has been running into issues with the Fold, and it could push the launch into 2027. Either way, I would think Apple will announce it in September, and according to Instant Digital, the iPhone Fold has already entered trial production. So this is a good thing if we don't have exact details as far as the launch yet, but it seems Apple is certainly close to making millions of them for the launch. So if they've figured out the display, figured out the details of the design, such as the dummy units, it looks like we may be good to go for later this year. Also, according to Mark Gurman, Apple is planning to release iPhone Air 2 models, but in early 2027. This would launch alongside an iPhone 18e and iPhone 18 model as well. Apple will instead show only its high-end phones in the fall with the iPhone 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max, and iPhone Ultra. And while the iPhone Air has not been a huge hit, Apple apparently plans to release iPhone Air 2 regardless of popularity, according to Fixed Focus Digital on Weibo. Apple's done this before with the Plus models as well, where they'll typically have poor sales, but they'll release a second version as well. So this seems likely, of course, with an iPhone Air 2, but again, in a staggered release instead of a September release. Now, we just got the new iPad Air, but a new report from ET News in Korea has said that the next iPad Air will gain an OLED display. Apple just released the new M4 iPad Air I have videos on about a month or so ago, but this time around this time next year, we could see the iPad OLED. So maybe we'll have an OLED iPad Air, and if we do see an iPad Air OLED, maybe we'll see the MacBook Air OLED around the same time as well. So we'll have to wait and see if that's what they do. However, there's been a long-pushed rumor that Apple is going to push OLEDs on all devices in the near future, so it would make sense that we'll see it at some point. We're hearing more and more about the rumored upcoming glasses from Apple this weekend, as Mark Gurman has said Apple is actively testing at least 4 different frame styles along with multiple color options. These glasses are similar to Meta glasses and would offer Siri along with photo and video capability. The overall design will offer a large rectangular frame, a slim rectangular frame like the glasses Tim Cook wears, and also a large and small option of either oval or circular frames, so there could be multiple options, but Apple is still testing them. The glasses would also use higher-end material than Meta's glasses, as expected from Apple typically with their designs with aluminum, or maybe other luxurious materials as well. So don't expect them to be just plastic, we'll have some higher-end options, but of course we'll pay for that as well. MacBook Neo has been a huge hit for Apple, but this could be a bit of a problem for Apple to meet demand. This is due to them using a binned version of the A18 Pro chip that has less active cores than the iPhone 16 Pro chipset. Apple may not have enough chips to meet demand before they move on to the next model update. So Apple could solve this in a couple different ways, with maybe an updated model or offering less options as well. It also seems that Apple plans to update the MacBook Neo to the A19 Pro chipset as soon as next year, according to Tim Culpin, who was a former reporter at Bloomburg. The A19 Pro will have increased RAM that the iPhone 17 Pro uses, with a similar chip, with 12 gigabytes of RAM. So that makes sense if they're just going to continue to use binned versions of previous iPhones, and of course we could see a MacBook Neo with that update as well. Of course, many of us are waiting for an updated Apple TV, new HomePods, new Siri devices. Of course, Apple needs to show off Siri 2.0 as well. But those new glasses could be something that I would love to try out, see how they work compared to maybe what we see with Meta. Of course, they will feature privacy as well, and maybe some new ideas. But let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.